Eleanor May Blackburn has dreamed of a career in the performing arts since she was little. She tells us she would go everywhere in her fairy wings. Eleanor, like a lot of 18-year-olds, would move from home to go to university, making the huge move from Sheffield to Falmouth to get a degree in acting. However, just 2 months after the move, Eleanor was hit by a speeding pushbike, which would cause a bleed on her brain, which would lead to a stroke. Eleanor was in a 2-week induced coma and spent a further 2 months in hospital. Now though, after spending time to recover, Eleanor has since obtained a first degree in acting and created a play based on the accident. The play, titled Subdural Hematoma, is the story of several people's journey and a celebration of what lies ahead on the other side. I had the pleasure of speaking with Eleanor about her love for acting, the accident, her recovery, and the play itself. Your play, Subdural Hematoma, it's based upon a really personal part of your life, and it's such an inspiring story. So I think we'd all love to hear your story and the inspiration behind the play. So first of all, I think we should start with what got you into acting. What was the inspiration behind that?
I mean, I don't think there wasn't ever something that made me think like, oh, this is what I should be doing. I just from the age of like 3 or 4, I used to love fancy dress and I just used to dress up as much as I could, like go everywhere in my fairy wings. And I would put on plays for my mum and dad at home. I'd devise lots of plays and I'd also put on like the classics like Oliver and I'd obviously play Nancy. Even though I couldn't sing, I still can't sing. But yeah, I just put on plays for them for a really long time. And then when I got to about 11 or 12, I started going to proper drama groups. I was always doing dancing when I was younger and had a like ballet tap and theatre craft lessons. And then when I got a bit older, I started attending drama classes and I got into an agency with that. So I was doing a lot of extra work, well, supporting artist work on BBC, CBBC, programs like that. And that was a great learning experience. But then I think I realised that I wanted to really have a crack at theatre. So at school, I threw myself into all the productions, and I'm very proud of the fact that in the year 10 production, I had more lines than anyone's ever had at Ecclesfield School. So I think it was about 300 lines or something. So that was a challenge. And then leaving school, I was like, I have to carry on acting. I can't do anything else. But I was very academic, so I was very good at maths and English and all the subjects really, apart from like geography. I don't know why. But so my career supervisor rang my mum and she was like, Ellie can't do drama at college because she's too academically gifted and she needs to be applying for Oxford and Cambridge and stuff. And I was like, well, and my mum was like, she'll do whatever she wants to do. Thank you very much. Like, my parents have always been absolutely incredible and supported me to the end of the earth. And so I went and studied acting at college. I went on to study acting at uni, and that's when I had my accident.
So we'll talk about uni because before we started the call, we're talking about how moving away to uni is a massive thing anyway. So what were your feelings to moving to Cornwall and going to uni?
I was really excited, but then I think because I just wanted to get away from everything and start again, really. But when I moved and my parents dropped me off and I knew they were gone, I just sat in my room and cried for like a good hour. I was like, oh my God, I'm completely alone because I knew no one. I was literally starting completely from scratch and it's terrifying, isn't it? I mean, even moving to uni like in your own city and living at home is scary enough, but I think I sort of bit off a bit more than I could chew at first, but then I made it work.
So you were only there a couple of months before the accident. Can you talk us through what happened and the events that would occur after it?
Yeah, so I think it was November 19th. I don't really remember the day. I remember the posting a picture for my friend's birthday in the morning, and then the rest of the day is a blur. Um, and about 6 o'clock coming home from uni, I got hit by a push bike. And then my friends from my flat sort of found out because they found my phone obviously, and they rang like my flat, and they were like, oh, some random person, bless them, was like, Ellie's had an accident, can you come and bring us some stuff? And so they all traveled to Truro Hospital, it was at first, and then I got transferred later to Derriford Hospital because they've got a specialist head injury unit. And my mum and dad were called up, and they were obviously living in Sheffield at the time. So the doctor was like, when can you get here? And they were like, 8 hours. Like, it won't be for quite a while. And they were like, well, we need permission to operate, and you need to get ready to say your goodbyes and stuff. So, yeah, it was, can't imagine what that journey was like for my mum and dad. I think that must have been one of the hardest moments of their life. Because knowing as well that they couldn't get there any faster, and that they were just completely helpless. Must have been really traumatic. But then I was put into an induced coma for 2 weeks, and I came around gradually from that. I was given a tracheostomy, a chest drain, um, so many scans. I was in hospital for 2 months. They managed to fly me home for Christmas on the 23rd of December. They thought before that they wouldn't get me home for Christmas. So all my family were getting ready to, they booked places to stay in Plymouth, and they were ready to come and spend Christmas in the hospital. And on Christmas Day in Sheffield Hospital, I had so many visitors. I'm just rambling here. I'm really sorry.
It's all
But
right.
yeah, there were so many people who visited me. It was a Christmas like no other, and I remember Father Christmas coming around the hospital, and he gave me shower gel as a present, so that's nice. Um, and a notebook which I used to write my first words on. And I wrote things like, I didn't realize how poorly I was, and I've pooed myself, and I've bought Lauren a present for Christmas, but I can't give it to her. And they were like, don't worry about that. You really just need to focus on getting better.
So, what was your recovery process like after all that?
It was very quick at first. So we were told that I was going to be put on a ward called, I think it was Osborne or something like that, for rehabilitation. But then they sort of changed their minds at the last minute and said, well, we're actually going to send you home, and we'll send out occupational therapists to you. And I attended hydrotherapy for, I think it was about once a week for a while. And I went to a brain injury specialist centre, and they did lots of tests to check my memory and check my math skills and all things like that, and a physical test, which they actually said I did better in the physical test than all the mental tests. And I thought, well, that will definitely be my worst, but it wasn't. And in one of the tests I had to walk around town, and they followed me from afar, and I had these tasks to do, so I had to buy a pen and all this stuff with a budget of £10, and they were like, don't rush whatever you do, but you have to do it in this time limit. And I didn't do very well at that, but I never have been very good at like um journeys out, I guess. I don't know. But, yeah, so that was that. I loved hydrotherapy so much. I wish I could still do that. I think it would be great for everyone to do because it's just so much fun. The occupational therapist at home brought me things like bread ingredients, and we needed bread to sort of try and improve the um, ability of my right hand. And I had speech therapy, so because of the tracheostomy, I struggled to swallow and I had a lisp. I mean, I still do have a bit of a lisp, but I think it's kind of um, so yeah, they got me to say lots of words, and for a long time it was just focusing on getting better. And then in the summer, my dad's work were really amazing because they didn't do Christmas cards that year. They saved all the money up and they gave it to me for my recovery. So I went to the gym and I did the weights and I got like advice on what to do for recovery. I also attended aqua aerobics, so loads of 80-year-old women in the pool with me. That was an experience, but it was really fun. I was the youngest there by like 50 years, but that's okay. And yeah, I went back to uni in the September after, and I was still very much in recovery then. So I I had a space in the library in the Performing Arts building where they put like comfy cushions and blankets and stuff. So I could just say to my tutor at any time, I need 20 minutes, and I'd just go and rest in this place, sleep for a little nap, and then disability allowance gave me PIP money, which was really fantastic because it meant that I could get myself takeaways and stuff when I was too tired to cook, and all those wonderful things like taxis when I couldn't get the bus. They also allowed me a laptop and a printer and lots of software on my computer so I could record my lectures. But you can imagine like going back to an acting course, which is very physical, um, in recovery is tricky. But in my first module, because they kept my score from the year before, said they were like, just do it, but you can keep your module from last year, so don't worry about your result or anything. I got exactly the same mark, so I was completely in recovery and I got a first. So I think I did all right.
Yeah, I mean, to get a first after all, that's amazing. I mean, I'll not talk about what I got. It definitely wasn't that. But, so, from what I've read, the idea for the play first came about. Was it a play in a bag? If I getting
Yeah,
that right?
shown
Yeah,
a bag.
yeah. Do you want to tell us about that and how the story for the play came about?
Yeah, of course. So we had a module in third year called Joe in a Bag where it was just a scratch piece, 10-minute scratch piece that you could take anywhere and do any time, I guess. So very little props, very little requirements for tech and stuff. And I was sort of thinking about what to do, and it was about that time I started writing a bit of spoken word. So I wrote a bit of spoken word about the accident, and I was like, I really don't want to talk about this that much because still wasn't completely over it. But I performed it in front of my class, and they were like proper laughing, and I was like, okay, like this is funny. I didn't think it was. I mean, I tried to make it comedy, but I was like, I could never be a comedian. I am not funny at all. So yeah, it was really nice to get a good reaction from that. And then my tutor challenged me to make it into my piece. They were like, I think that'd definitely be strongest out of the things you've proposed. And I got the highest mark that I'd got in any of my modules at uni doing that show in a bag. And I cried for probably about 2 days after I'd done the performance because I messed up like one of the last. I was like, oh my God, it's over. Like, I've completely ruined everything. And I went into the disabled toilet, and my teacher came to me and she was like, you are an idiot. You did great. And then I got that high mark. And yeah, for 2 days after, I think I was just processing everything because this was only 3 years down the line. And I definitely hadn't had therapy about it, or I mean I had had all my occupational therapy, but I hadn't had mental. therapy, so I think I was still working with it within myself. And now it's like great, I can do it anytime and I'm just like not phased by it. But at the time, I think it was very cathartic putting that on and getting to the other side of it.
Yeah. So can you give us like a little insight into what you can expect if you were to go and see the play and what kind of
Yeah.
audience reception you've had from it?
So I've been blown away by the reactions I've had. I've actually got a meeting with a retired veteran on Thursday who was talking about, he messaged me and he was talking about his son who had a brain tumor and how much it resonated with him, and also his friend who's a veteran and he had a brain injury. And I some women stayed behind the end of my play and they were like, it was just so beautiful, and it was so powerful. We'll be thinking about it for such a long time after. And having done it this many times at this point, I'm like, oh, it's just a play, isn't it? Like it's not, it won't change anything for anyone. But I think like, I don't know, I think it is powerful, and the fact that it's not just about me, it's about my parents' stories and testimonials of other brain injury survivors and my friends, and it's just a real communal effort, I'd say, even though it's a solo show. And you can expect physical theatre, verbatim, mask work, um, diary entries that my mum made at the time, recorded by her. Um, and that's the verbatim I do as well, my mum's words. And readings that my dad did, extracts of books that he read me while I was in hospital. And spoken word. It's primarily spoken word. And you can expect, hopefully, to laugh. Although people don't, sometimes they're not sure if they can laugh because it's like, oh, I poo myself. Can I laugh at that? Like, I don't know. Um, but you absolutely can. Like, please laugh. And I think it's quite moving. Or it's quite self-assured to say like, oh yeah, my play is so moving. But I've been told by many people it is, and yeah, it's a journey.
What's your future plans now? Do you plan to take the play elsewhere in the country, write more?
So I have got another scrap piece in the works called, I'm not sure if you'll be able to print this, but does my fanny look big in this? About sexual anxiety, and that's also going to be a comedy and quite based in mental health as well.
Yeah.
So I've got that in the works and I've applied for a few things with that. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to take that or Subdural next year to the Fringe, but I was at the Fringe this year for the full run with another show called Partners with Sylvester McCoy, and I've just got a taste for the Fringe now. I like want to go every year. It's just the most incredible experience. So I will be going next year. Whether it's with Subdural or my other piece remains to be seen. But I would like to take Subdural down the country to where I had my accident. I mean, I did a workshop around it with some students from Falmouth, which was really rewarding and fantastic. And that was last year. So I'd love to do a show at the theatre where I did my degree. And I just write so much. Like I've got another poetry book in the works. I had a poetry book published last year, just coming out of lockdown, called Ghost and Found, about ghosts that I found along the way. It's split into two sections, Ghost and Found, and that's also references my recovery and my injury. And then I'm writing another one now. I'm not sure what that's going to be called yet. I'll keep that in the old brain for now. But yeah, I'm writing, I'm working at York Dungeons quite a lot of the time. Like I said, I'm moving to Headingley, and I've got domestic violence projects in the works with Breakout Arts. I'm in a feature film that was filmed this summer. I'm playing the lead in, so that's coming out next year, called Bonnie and Clive. And I play Bonnie. And yeah, I'm just doing as much as I can really, and writing every day, which is like the best thing that you can do.